It is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento, our Capitol Bureau, joined by Anthony Portantino. Guess what? He's back. He's a member of the California State Senate. Took a 4-year break from Sacramento because of term limits. Absolutely. You're under the old term limit regime. You had 6 years in the Assembly. You have 8 years in the Senate. But there was an incumbent, and so you waited 4 years, and you're back.
I'm back. Now, you use that word regime. Maybe I thought you were talking about Washington
we'll talk about that later.
Under the new president.
We'll talk about that later. But do talk about that 4-year absence. I mean, presumably, it's been a good 4 years for California. The economy turned around, but now a different body from 80 to 40. Talk to us.
Well, I'm very excited to be back, obviously, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The economy is much better.
Right.
Prop 30 passed,
right.
Prop 55 just
the
passed.
Extension.
When I was here, schools were under tremendous pressure because of the downturn, $20-30 billion
right.
Structural deficit. Schwarzenegger had created even a greater structural deficit with lots of borrowing.
Right.
Governor Brown has done a great job paying down the debt,
and
creating the rainy day fund, and
right.
now with Prop 55 passing, I'm excited. I was named to chair the budget subcommittee on education, which, as you know, my district deeply cares about.
Right.
So I'm very happy.
So let's talk about education, because like you said, these years have been much better than when you were here in the past. I mean, you left in 2012. K-14 funding is up 55%
right.
from 2012. We're now spending for K-12 about $15,000 per pupil. That's up almost $4,000 from 2012.
Right. The per pupil spending is up. Obviously, we still are not fully funding local control funding. I think
right.
the governor proposed a 96% full funding this year, and one of the questions I asked at yesterday's hearing is, why 96%? Why not 100%? And what is it going to take to fully fund it? But the good news is this year has more money in the budget than last year.
Right. Although I do want to ask you this, because the governor believes that the state of California is heading toward deficit next summer,
right.
2018. And as a result, the growth in education is not as great as it would have been if he didn't predict that. Your friends at the LAO believe his projections are too conservative.
I think at this point in the year, it's better to be conservative
okay.
in the projections. I think that's good. I was going to point out the one of the pieces of good news from yesterday's hearing is both the Department of Finance and the LAO agree that we are ahead of schedule of making sure we meet the full implementation of local control funding formulas of 2021. So we're on pace to fully fund the local control funding formula, which was a historic revolution in school funding and making schools whole from the deficits of the Great Recession. So that's exciting.
Right.
And for me, coming in and as a new senator, being asked to chair the budget committee, the subcommittee on education for a district that has Pasadena City College, Glendale Community College. Though Citrus sits outside my district, all of the communities
right.
that go to Citrus are in my district, and Mount Sac and Rio Hondo and LA Community College.
Caltech?
Caltech is in my district. So this is a education-centric district.
I'm wondering if you're concerned, sir, that because K-12, such a soft spot for K-12 through Governor Brown, that it may be time to start focusing away from K-12 and let other programs get restored, like K-12 got restored over the last few years.
Well, as you know, my biggest initiative is to change the entire education model and focus on blending K-12 into K-14 into higher education.
And let's really dig into that, because that is a very bold initiative. Please.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about our education, we talk about education reform. I think it's a misplaced discussion in a sense that the model itself was created when we were a farming and a manufacturing economy. You got home at 3 o'clock so you could work on the farm, you had your summers free. The time that it was set was all based on farming and manufacturing. The type of education you got prepared you to go home and work at the GM plant and become part of the middle class. You were prepared when you left public education to succeed to either go into the workforce or go on to a four-year university.
Right.
That's not the case anymore. Now when you graduate high school, you're not prepared for the workforce, because even if you're going to go into a lab technician's job, you need to go to a community college to get that certificate. If you're going to go on to a four-year university, oftentimes you need more basic skills. We're not doing what we need to do to prepare our students for success, in my opinion, because the model itself hasn't changed for a global high-tech economy and the workforce. And so what I want to do is basically erase the line between high school. We've done great strides with concurrent enrollment and allowing high school students to take community college classes, but we still talk about them in two different silos. And so I want to institutionalize a blended approach to education where every student has a path to success, and so when they're done, they're either going into the workforce with a job where they can put food on their table and have a middle-class life, or go on to that higher education four-year degree.
So does that mean that we have career tech classes in high school, or we funnel these high school kids into career tech at community college?
I think it guarantees everybody a K-14 education, and we fully blend it. And just like there are European models, there are Canadian models, there are other states, other models where it's a fully institutionalized, blended, guaranteed K-14 education.
For those that want it?
No, for every student. So no longer do we say, what are you doing after you graduate? We know. I'm going to go get the certificate in nursing. I'm going to go get the certificate in lab technician. I'm going to go get the certificate in auto mechanics. Or I'm going to go get the classes I need to go to UCLA because I'm going to be a doctor. It's about education. It's not about I'm a high school and I'm a college. It's about I'm going to be prepared for success to meet the job market in 2017, not the job market in 1950.
What about the cost? Do grades 13 and 14 become part of public schools and therefore are free?
Well, they already are.
But they're not free.
They're not free. They used to be.
They did. 1984, that ended.
And guess what happened when they were free?
More people went.
More people went, and guess what happened with the economy?
The economy was in better shape, presumably.
And guess what happened? We had more taxpayers, we had a better tax base, it all paid for itself. So I think the economic model's there. I think, let's back up. The need is certainly there, because today, if you graduate high school, you're not prepared for success in today's economy.
But that's an expensive proposition. I
And
mean,
that's
13
why
and 14.
that's why I've asked the LA to help me, and that's why I've introduced legislation to ask for help from the stakeholders, the LAO, to come up with a new education model that meets 2017. Instead of saying to a 1950s model and just try to work around the edges to make it work for 2017, let's say, what do we actually need to do with the stakeholder support, with the input of the educators?
Well, what are the stakeholders saying? For example, Eloy Oakley, who's the chancellor of the California Community Colleges.
Well, I'm meeting with the community colleges later today, as a matter of fact.
Or do you know if other states are looking into this
Other
issue?
states are looking at this issue. Other countries are looking at this. Everybody is trying to figure out how do we best prepare our students. Just a radical idea of what time should the school day start is a radical concept.
Some people believe later.
Later, exactly. Because why did we start early? So you could have time to work on the farm.
Right.
It wasn't about the education. It was about the economic model. Now we have to figure out what is it about. It's the jobs and the economic model of today, and work back to the education, or work from the education. You have to go from one place to another.
Yeah, you got to come back and tell us what happens with this, because this really could be a big change in our state.
Absolutely.
His name is Anthony Portantino, member of the California State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance in Sacramento. It's Local Edition.